Today, tensions erupt as Beijing orders US Navy ship to leave immediately from South China Sea. China has ordered a US Navy warship to leave the South China Sea immediately after a destroyer entered the waters around the Paracel Islands. Due to its One China policy, Beijing has laid claim to several islands chains in the South China Sea. On Friday, the Chinese Defense Ministry claimed the USS John McCain had entered into the waters around the disputed islands without the government's permission. After detecting the US naval ship, the Chinese military quickly ordered the vessel to leave before sending forces to conduct tracking procedures. Senior Colonel Zhang Nandong also called on the US to stop violating China's sovereignty in the region. He said China demand the US immediately stop such provocative actions and strictly control and restrict military operations in the sea and air. The military official also stated China would continue to take necessary measures to protect the regional stability of the South China Sea. China has accused the US of trying to increase its presence in the region by sending Navy ships to conduct freedom of navigation operations. Due to China's colossal navy, Beijing has been able to put pressure on neighboring states such as the Philippines, Malaysia and Vietnam to claim the islands it sees as its own. In response, Washington has attempted to take a tough stance with Beijing. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has persistently warned of Xi Jinping's growing naval empire. He has previously stated, Beijing's claims to offshore resources across most of the South China Sea are completely unlawful, as is its campaign of bullying to control them. In the South China Sea, U.S. seek to preserve peace and stability, uphold freedom of the seas in a manner consistent with international law, maintain the unimpeded flow of commerce, and oppose any attempt to use coercion or force to settle disputes. The U.S. share these deep and abiding interests with our many allies and partners who have long endorsed a rules-based international order. Beijing uses intimidation to undermine the sovereign rights of Southeast Asian coastal states in the South China Sea, bully them out of offshore resources, assert unilateral dominion, and replace international law with might makes right. The world will not allow Beijing to treat the South China Sea as its maritime empire. Canada has now joined the chorus of countries calling for China's activities in the region to be monitored. After 2 Canadians were detained by China, Justin Trudeau's defense minister, Harjit Sajjan, called for NATO to increase its activities in the South China Sea. He also described Beijing's action in the waters as concerning. He also said, "This type of hostage diplomacy is not what good rules-based order nations do. So, if you want to be part of the global rules-based order, we need to have greater predictability. These are some of the things that we will continue to monitor, and we need to monitor in NATO. This is not just about being reactionary to a problem. It's about making sure any nation out there sees the collective will of what NATO brings to the table, and that's the strong message of defense and deterrence." The People's Liberation Army accused the U.S. warship of trespassing into Chinese territorial waters on Friday near the Paracel Islands called Chisha by China during the latest freedom of navigation missions by the U.S. Navy aimed at defying China's vast claims in the strategic waterway. Spokesperson for the PLA's Southern Theater Command Colonel Zhang Nandong said Beijing demanded the U.S. end such actions, calling them blatant navigation hegemony and military provocation that seriously violated China's sovereignty and security interests, and gravely jeopardized peace and stability in the South China Sea. China urges the U.S. side to immediately stop such kind of provocative actions, strictly manage and control its maritime and air military operations so as not to cause any eventuality, Zhang said. China claims sovereignty over virtually the entire South China Sea, which is also claimed in whole or in part by Taiwan, the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia and Vietnam. Frictions between China and Indonesia have also increased over activities by China's fishing vessels, the Coast Guard and Navy within Indonesia's exclusive economic zone. China ignored a 2016 arbitration ruling that invalidated most of its territorial claims in the South China Sea, but has encountered persistent pushback from the US, its allies and China's Southeast Asian neighbors over its moves to cement its control in the disputed area. China has demanded the US control and restrict its naval operations in the South China Sea after a US-guided missile destroyer entered waters around the disputed Paracel Islands without permission. A spokesperson for the Chinese People's Liberation Army accused the US of flexing its military muscle after the USS John McCain was spotted sailing into China's territorial waters on Friday. Colonel Zhang Nandong said it is a naked navigational hegemony and military provocation. China demand the US immediately stop such provocative actions and strictly control and restrict military operations in the sea and air to avoid accidents. The Chinese military claimed the US has frequently sent warships to the South China Sea to show off its force and severely infringe upon China's sovereignty and security interests. The spokesperson said it would take all necessary measures to resolutely safeguard national sovereignty and security and to maintain peace and stability in the region. In July, China accused the US of sailing through the world like a bully after two aircraft carriers, the USS Nimitz and USS Ronald Reagan, were dispatched to the South China Sea in a show of force. Beijing claims most of the South China Sea based on the 9-dash line, a vague delineation which dates back to the 1940s. China has spent years building military bases on artificial islands in the area, which is home to valuable oil and gas deposits and is a vital commercial waterway. The US meanwhile has conducted freedom of navigation operations in the region, causing tensions between the two countries. It comes after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited Japan on Tuesday to rally support from Washington's closest allies in Asia, calling for deeper collaboration against China's growing regional influence. Pompeo spoke in typically unsparing terms against Beijing's ruling Chinese Communist Party. That was in contrast to his three counterparts, Japan, India and Australia, all of whom avoided calling out China directly. China later accused Pompeo of maliciously creating political confrontation and smearing Beijing and called on the US to stop its unprovoked attacks. China once again urged the US to abandon its Cold War mentality and ideological prejudice, stop unprovoked accusations and attacks against China and treat relations with China in a constructive manner, the Chinese embassy in Japan said in a statement. Pompeo's East Asia visit, his first in more than a year, coincides with worsening tensions with China. The United States and China, the world's top two economies, have been at loggerheads over a wide range of issues from Beijing's handling of the coronavirus to its imposition of a new security law in Hong Kong and ambitions in the South China Sea.